Hello, everybody out there, and welcome to another episode of the Talk That Talk Show with me, Barry Holmes. And we are here for our 251st episode of the Talk That Talk Show. And I'm just happy to be here, guys. I'll say this. It's definitely been a week of ups and downs, to say the least. But, that's what life's all about. I feel like, we're constantly tested with adversity, different things that we might want to go our way that don't. But it's really a testament on how we respond to those things and, what we can do to alleviate those things that we don't like that are going our way. And, I'll say this. All right, you know what? I'll just go right off the bat. All right, we'll just go out the bat with it. It sucked. You know how big of a Knicks fan I am. I love my Knicks, and it just sucks. I was heartbroken with that Game 7. I'll just come right out with it. First and foremost, I want to give a big time shout out to my girlfriend Ashley, Doc G. She surprised me with the best surprise ever. We were just out of bowling, just got done bowling a UBA match. Big shout out to DIY, we got that big time dub. But we were at Majestic Lanes and she just kept looking at me, she was laughing. I'm like, what is so funny? What are you laughing about? And then she just wouldn't tell me. And then a little bit later, we get into the car, and all of a sudden she starts tearing up. I'm like, what's going on here? One could think of, many things here. But, luckily for me, it was a joyous cry because she eventually showed me her phone, which wound up being 2 tickets to Game 7 in Madison Square Garden. And I think the craziest thing about it, guys, is that, I had worked in sports media for, many years. 6, 7, it doesn't even matter at this point. But I worked countless years. And, as a diehard Knicks fan, that was my dream, to go out there and see J.R. Smith at that time, to be in the locker room with Carmelo Anthony, to interview my favorite players. Working in sports media was an experience that I'll never forget, and helped me to really vault this platform and this podcast. But it was just one of those things where you have your dream job, but at the same time you're a fan too. And I'd always hoped that I would get the chance to cover a playoff game. And sadly that didn't happen. So the closest thing for me to being able to cover a playoff game was actually being inside Madison Square Garden. And that's why, after not working in sports media, I took it upon myself to, after, working hard and having the resources, having the funds to be able to say, you know what, fuck it, I will go to the Knicks game. That's something that, I wasn't able to do, growing up as a kid. And, not to mention that we weren't exactly the best team. I used to get made fun of being a Knicks fan, while the Kobe era and then Iverson was coming up. And, it wasn't, per se cool when you were younger to be a Knicks fan. And, I stood, 10 toes down as my fandom continued to grow. And, I remember my uncle, he had, season tickets to the Knicks, and he would hook us up. Cousin George, Uncle George, he would give me and my dad tickets to the Knicks sometimes, and being able to go watch those Knicks courtside, those are some of the best times, and that helped shape me to be the Knicks fan that I was. Watching Knicks games with my father on his lap. I think it was like a green chair, right, Pops? But, just watching those Knicks games with him. I remember watching MSG and, listening to Mike Breen earlier and Walt Clyde Frazier before Wally Zerbiak came on, the Knicks, going to Knicks camps. I remember being at a Knicks summer camp where I won the one-on-one trophy for one-on-one basketball. We had to, that was tough. You had to go against some dudes, and I won it for the guards, one-on-one in Knicks camp. Meeting Nate Robinson, meeting John Starks, Stephen A. Smith before he was on ESPN, getting to ask him a question. It was just, the basis around why I love the Knicks. I think it was just something I had to express out there because, I feel like for a lot of people, they assume that Knicks fans are bandwagon fans. But, I think that, the Knicks fans and the Knicks faithful, especially leaving the Garden on Game 7, it just really felt like a unified body. Like, all of New York was in Madison Square Garden. And, giving you guys that basis or the background as to, just loving the Knicks and, it just being instilled in me and, getting the chance to, interview these players that, I looked up to. Tim Hardaway Jr., which got over 1 million views. There was a lot of things that, again, the Knicks just helped to culminate my love for them, right? And then now, finally, in my adult stages of my life, it's not my job. It's something that I get to really, truly enjoy. Enjoy the entertainment. I'm not courtside like Spike Lee, but at the same time, I'm in that building, feeling that electricity. Having that little white wristband on your shoulder and, on your wrist and, having the lights go off, in the Garden. It's just amazing, man. If you're a Knicks fan, you gotta go to a playoff game. But having said that, I think the thing that hurt most of us Knicks fans and why we were so upset with the way that everything ended, because, I think that if you had watched the Knicks games like a lot of us did, we won over, the average fan or the common fan because of just how hard the Knicks played. You really got the grit and the tenacity. You're getting the Knicks in guys' faces, not backing down, standing on business, coming up with big shots. I think that tenaciousness is just easily able to gravitate towards. And, it was a joy to watch the Knicks all season. That's why when it came down to, dropping some bills for the tickets, it didn't feel like anything because I truly felt like I would be entertained. Going to the Philadelphia to see the Knicks play against the Sixers and win a big game on the road, that was an experience in itself too. I loved every second of it. So, and even then, you just saw the Knicks and just how well we travel and just all the Knicks fans that were there. And it almost felt like a Knicks home game, literally getting the chant, "Fuck Embiid" in Philadelphia. It was amazing. So Knicks fans are second to none. We are faithful. And we showed up in Game 7. I think it was tough because for a lot of us Knicks fans, we were like on our pins and needles, and it was tough to kind of enjoy because we knew what happened in Indiana in Game 6. And ever since that Nembhard shot where the Knicks could have went up 3-0 and he hit that step back to close the game out in Game 3, it just seemed like the tides had turned. And it's just tough when you have the Knicks that were up 3-2 and you have 2 opportunities to close out the series and you're just not even close. It's just tough. It's easy for us to say that injuries plagued us. Had we not had the injuries, then we could have been there. But that's where it's on these front office guys to not just get people just to fill a roster. Everybody that has to put on a Knicks uniform has to be ready to perform. And there's no other person that I can highlight more than Alex Burks. He didn't get any tick for the first couple games of the series, and then he winds up getting in the game and he's getting 15, 20 points in multiple games when he's put in. And I feel like the Knicks, ultimately just didn't have enough guys beyond our guys that were hurt. And that's why I don't want to use the injuries as an excuse because, moving forward into next year, I would like to see the front office really try and beef up the bench a little bit. Maybe trying to get a Mikal Bridges to come off the bench. maybe making some moves to get Devin Booker to get up there to give Jalen Brunson another option, because I feel like even though we hated what Draymond Green said about how the Knicks wouldn't be successful being a Jalen Brunson dominant team, it proved to be true, because when Jalen Brunson was not out there dropping 40 points a game, I was in the Garden and I saw what happened. The Knicks were struggling to score. It took outrageously long Dante DiVincenzo three-pointers, or some off-balance Alec Burks shots, just to get us within the game for spurts. So I think moving forward for the Knicks, I think if we can get healthy again and get some of our key pieces back. I mean, who do we lose to injury? Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, OG Anunoby, right after he had the best game of his life, Bogdanovich. The list goes on, and Jalen Brunson, who then fractures his hand. Injuries, even though it's clear and apparent that they were there, I love how Jalen Brunson took accountability in the post-game press conference, and when they said, "Is this a successful season?" he said, "No." And for a lot of us Knicks fans, I feel like we think it's successful because of the fact that we had hope. We truly felt like we could win that series, right? The Heat series last year in the semifinals, they kind of smoked us. They definitely looked like the better team, But I just feel like with what we saw from the Knicks this year, it just seemed like we were on a path to do great things. If we could have got to Boston, but you can't play the what-if games, right? Because at the end of the day, the Knicks just didn't get it done. But to prevent that from happening, you have to make sure that you have good options outside of those ones that get hurt, Miles McBride got put up, and he had to step up when Quentin Grimes got traded. And we saw that he was well worth, putting up into some responsibility. But in doing so, that left that void coming off the bench. And if, you have certain guys that are now coming up and have to play, it's just tough, because those guys can't just be serviceable. They have to be competitive and ready to go out and kill, right? And to say that in a Game 7 where you have a Precious Achiuwa, role players, they're not the solid base of the team. They're not your star caliber players. When you're asking them to do things that they have not done, that's when you get into trouble. So, it's tough, because I love my Knicks. We were right there. We were one game away from the Eastern Conference Finals. But, had we advanced, would we even be able to get a game against Boston with that hobbled team? But that's what the Knicks had proven all year long, that every time that people doubted them, they showed up. But unfortunately, the magic ran out for us in Madison Square Garden, and it was tough, because I had tears of joy when I walked into the Garden with Ashley earlier on in the game, and I was just really just taking it in. Of all those times that I covered games, and being a part of that season that was the worst historically in franchise history, covering those games, I remember that. So to be in the Garden for a Game 7 where you could have potentially went to the Eastern Conference Finals, to her point, that was something that I waited for my whole entire life for. So for people to say, I'm sorry for you, I'm sorry you had to witness that, I would have rather been in the Garden with all of my people that love the Knicks just as much as I do, that been on the couch, sad, and just not there. It was definitely worth the experience. It was one of the most important games in Knick history in the last couple decades. I think that it's also, even though it hurts, it's a lot easier for us. It's a lot easier for us to look forward into next season, because the success that you saw, it seems easily replicated, right? I think the toughest thing that's going to be difficult for us is, either, trying to re-sign Hartenstein, who's on the early bird deal, which is going to be very difficult when you can only offer the guy about $16 million roughly. Isaiah Hartenstein is well worth more than that, and proven when OG went down and when Mitchell Robinson went down, he stepped up big and turned out to be one of the best offensive rebounders in the playoffs. So I think that we do have to do whatever we can to try and retain Isaiah Hartenstein, even if that means, putting some incentives in there to try and get him enticed. But it's just going to be really hard to match other teams that are going to, I know, offer about 30 to 40 million. And then we have Reese here who says, let's see, it says slow connection. How do you feel about Tibbs playing those players so many minutes? So, I'll say this, man. It goes back to the point, Reese, about what we talked about with the front office, about trying to, put some people in place to where you don't have to play, Jalen Brunson so many minutes during the regular season. And, Tibbs had done some points throughout the season where he did bench guys so that they could get rest. But, in my opinion, I just feel like the injuries, although some people could attribute Tibbs, basically, I've been hearing this a lot, running them into the ground. But, if you think about it, what Tibbs has done for the team in general, I mean, leading them to a 50-win team, especially in how difficult the East and West was, I think the Knicks built something, and I think that's what Tom Thibodeau is really good with, is utilizing the resources that he has. I mean, I think had he, had Alec Burks a little bit earlier in the season to start with, maybe, and they didn't have to trade for, maybe if, he was playing Bogdanovich a lot more. He, in that first series, when you look at the Knicks, when they were playing against the 76ers, you saw him shuffling out more people than I've ever seen shuffled in my life. However, due to the injuries, he really, I mean, could we really throw out there, what was the guy, Shake Milton? I mean, fuck Shake Milton. I love him to death, but I mean, the guy's not going to be able to go out there and start for you and give you considerably tough minutes over somebody like an Alec Burks, I just feel like there was no other options out there for Thibodeau to play. Josh Hart, could he have been played a lot more minutes? I do think so. But again, I just feel like the injuries were just too much to work around, because I mean, we'll even say this, right? Say the Knicks make a miraculous comeback and try to, come back. I just think in that Boston series, we had the potential to get swept. I think it's this. When you get down into, and I'll actually make this point too, Reese, later on. But when it gets down into playoff time, like, your coach, you have to, in the regular season, you have to manage your minutes. I absolutely agree with Reese in the fact that you have to manage these guys so that when it comes down to playoff time, when you get called upon to play the extra minutes and to play more minutes than you asked of, you have to be able to be ready for that. Because, we said the athletic director, and I'll get a little bit more into this later with the flag football, but there was a situation where, girls were complaining about playing time. And, the athletic director straight up said, yeah, you should be playing more offensive girls on the defensive side. If they're not ready, you're going to have to play both sides of the ball, which meant we had to play more people and tire them out a little bit more. But that wound up working out for us. So, I think it's tough as a coach, especially now that I've been on this side, through flag football. It's tough to be able to, constantly keep guys fresh and constantly, get new people in there, because at the same time, you still have to have the trust within those players to not only succeed, but succeed to win, And, Coach Wright, big shout out to her. She always talks about potential versus ability. And the potential of someone could be entertaining, could be flattering. This guy has the potential to work out well for me if I put him in the game. But are you willing to sacrifice the work for everybody else has put in because that guy maybe not shown that ability yet, has not earned that ability yet? I said that about Deuce McBride, but he earned that ability and he showed that beyond what his potential was. So, Reese says here, absolutely, he definitely does make stuff out of nothing. Forgive me, I think I'm still bitter for what happened in Chicago. Knicks still had a successful season, come back healthy next year, solid foundation to build on. And I couldn't agree more, man. And, I think the thing about with Tibbs is, with Chicago, I mean, if we had, and I'll give you this, Reese. If you put Derek Fisher and gave him Joakim Noah, and you gave him Luol Deng, and you gave him Derrick Rose, could he make that team as maximized as Tom Thibodeau did? I feel like the Bulls were not only good, but they were, very competitive for a long part of that LeBron Miami Heat stretch, right? He was like the thorn in their side. And then even when the Chicago Bulls did get over that hump, it's just tough because we all know the Derrick Rose injury, but Tom Thibodeau is somebody that's always going to be scrutinized for the amount of trust that he puts in his star caliber players through the amount of minutes that he plays them. But again, if you have someone that you can depend on and count on, and they've been getting you wins and you've been having success with that, would it be out of the realm to not want to change that, right? It's tough because, we could always go ifs, thens, buts about what happened, but to Reese's point, just got to retool, get healthy. I think, trying to do whatever we can to get Isaiah Hartenstein back is going to be crucial. But it's going to be very tough, difficult to keep him, man. But, I was sad at the beginning, but I think the motivation of what the Knicks can potentially do next year and what they've shown ability-wise already, being a 2 seed and earning that through, losing some of our best players, that ability shows me that the potential that the Knicks can do is something I'm worth believing in. So, a lot of Knicks fans were hurting, but just look forward into next year, man. Reese has one more question saying, are the Knicks better with Randall or without? I think that's very difficult because the same, and I'll say it in this coin, the New York Knicks looked a lot more fluid. The ball was moving and we looked a little bit more efficient when it came down to getting those shots on the perimeter, scoring a little bit more efficiently, less isolation basketball outside of Jalen Brunson. I would say the offense looked a little smoother. However, the one thing you could count on from Julius Randle was, he was that bigger body that would attack the paint, that could get to the free throw line, that was stretching the floor to get Jalen Brunson more free opportunities into the paint. I think that we saw a lot more difficult finishes for Jalen Brunson because Julius Randle was not there. I saw a shift in people saying that, Julius Randle would, they'd be so much better without him. And then when it came down to when we lost against Indiana, those same people were saying that, oh, if we had Julius Randle in there, we would have definitely smoked them. So it's like you can't have both sides here. So, do I think that they are better without him? Visually, based off what they've shown me, they can play without him. But to say that they're better without him, I don't think I can agree with that, because do you put him in that same lineup and do they have success? The Knicks were one of the hottest teams coming off that West Coast trip where they beat Denver. And we were talking about TNT about how the Knicks being one of the best teams in the NBA, not just the East, but they were saying the NBA when Julius Randle was out there with Jalen Brunson. So I feel like, we are a little bit quick to forget the Julius Randle effect because of the success that we saw. But, just because it's tough, man, because just because you have and seen visually the Knicks do better and you've seen other guys step up and what they could do, it just doesn't, you can't diminish what Julius Randle did bring every single night. And Reese did say that they missed his physicality for sure. But I'm positive looking forward into next year, and it's crazy because literally, as that game had ended that season, I had to literally muster up my emotions, get better to then go close out the season for girls flag football at North Plainfield High School. And I said to the girls that they had made me patient, and that this was one of the best experiences that happened to me in my life, because I think that when you have a coaching position, I don't have the football background that a lot of other coaches do. I played college basketball and I played a little bit of high school baseball, right? But I think the things that we can teach these girls extend beyond off the football field. And the changes that I saw within these girls, both mentally and physically, it was worth it, man. You had girls that changed their lifestyle patterns for the better. I saw girls taking leadership, accountability. Really, I feel like when you do a good job as a coach, your team tends to embody who you are, right? And with me working 2 jobs, coming straight off of the dispensary job to come coach them, I think that's something that I earned their respect with, because they saw just how hard I worked. So if they see coach who's busting his ass, doing everything as far as bowling wise, working at his other job, coming here, working at the school, and still showing up on a Saturday to deliver practices and give us 110% and not lack on the energy. I think that's where we were able to win the buy-in. And I think the thing that made the last game so sad for me is because everything that we had coached for, everything that we had worked towards all throughout the season culminated to it actually clicking for these girls against Piscataway. And we wound up winning against them 26-6 to win the last game of the season. And for my first ever high school collegiate coaching record, even though it's not a great one, it was 2-5-1. But I feel like above the wins and losses, I learned so much more about myself, and also just how powerful it can be when you have the right influence behind you. I saw at the beginning where I had to create plays. I had to create an entire playbook and teach these girls, this playbook, girls that were cheerleaders, had never played football a day in their lives. We had to teach them how to throw and catch, how to line up, how to run a route, how to actually understand the game of football. And when you're starting from absolutely nothing, scratch, you're so much further behind these other programs. But, we've never used that as an excuse that we're a first-year program. One of my proudest moments was a game where we played against, I think it was Sayreville, and we tied. There was a game we should have won, and we tied. And, everybody was just so upset. The mood was just really low. I questioned, how I was as a coach. We had girls ready to quit, and that was the lowest point of our season, And then we came back to work at practice, and you saw girls saying, "No, we didn't tie. We lost that game." In their mind, they lost that game, and I saw the desire in these girls finally that they felt something. Something clicked inside of them where they just desired to win. I think that for most of the season, we were participating because it was something to do. And I think that after that Sayreville tie loss, really sparked that fire where we wanted to win. We found that passion, and we took that into Piscataway. And again, teaching girls plays to where I had to call each and every play. We had to, make hand signals to call girls the plays, to where on the last game of the season, these girls went out there and called their own plays and literally coached themselves, and all we had to do was give them our observations, tell them what we saw, give them certain adjustments. And they went out and took everything that they learned through this entire 2-month period and went out and got a blowout win, the first one ever. And it just felt good, man. And then, for them to want to, pour water on Coach, and, they found me and poured some water on me. I look up and, see my mom out there. It meant a lot more because, to have the athletic director come up to my mom and say, thank you for having him, it validated the fact that, he didn't give a shit about whether we were 2-5-1. We got to win, and we have not only ability, but we have the potential, right? That potential that we showed in that last game, showed that athletic director, hey, let's let these guys build this program, man. Let's let them continue to build. And, when you have the confidence, especially, and I think that's the thing that's also lost, man. When you're a coach, you never feel like you're not on the hot seat, especially when, your wins and losses are put in the paper and it's on, state record, you know what I'm saying? So, to have the faith from him, and in that last game where we're breaking down the huddle and he looked, more happy than I was with a smile on his face, that proved not only to those girls that put in that work, but to me and Coach that, had to work together. Me and Coach Wright had to, I'm more conservative, she's more roll the dice, but we found that even balance to where, I trust her and she trusts my decisions. We give each other feedback, and I feel like, what I learned from coaching girls flag football, not only from a communication standpoint, from a respect standpoint, from a compassion standpoint, from an accountability standpoint, everything culminated to not only making these girls better, but it also helped to make myself better. And, I never would have thought that I would be a girls flag football coach. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing looking back at the first couple weeks. But, we figured it out, man. And, the fact that we had the support of, students, staff, parents, it's something that you just really can't put into words, when you look up in the stands and, you see so many people cheering, for the first time, at the end of the season, we were able to get like a defense clap. And it just really, it felt like home, it felt like we were at a home game. And it just felt like everything that we had worked for through playing in the rain for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time, to, finally, to getting smoked against Plainfield, getting smoked against Franklin, losing a heartbreaker against Kent Place, it was just a lot of heartbreak. And then to have these girls not quit, continue to get themselves up. How could you not want to run through a wall? You know what I'm saying? So this coaching job meant more than I ever thought it would. One of the girls, she came up to me, and she was just really upset about certain things, like, about not getting in the game, and just trying to get better and stuff like that. And, I just remember they were talking about mental health in the high school, and it brought me back to, they were talking about, if you see something, say something. And then I thought about, Andrew, and, one of the things that I had on my wrist about, stay positive, stay strong. And, it just, something within me, this thing, since he had passed, it had always given me strength, and for this girl, I felt like, she needed it. So I gave her, my wristband, and on her senior night, she had that on her wrist, and she played one of the best games, when she got her chance. So, it's those moments as a coach that make it worth it. And I just can't wait to coach again next year, man. I never thought that this coaching job would mean so much. And if you looked at those girls yesterday, you wouldn't be able to tell them they were 2-5-1. Everybody felt like winners, And that's what it's all about, you know, making these girls feel like winners, and making them and showing them that, you know, there are direct results from working hard. You know, when you do the work, when you put the work in and you do it the right way, you get the results that you want. And for us to show them on the last game of the season, that's what it was all about. That's what the sacrifice was for, you know. And I'll do it again. You know, I'll go back next year and I'm going to do it again. And, you know, when you have the security guard and you have people coming up to you and saying, you know what, you guys really figured it out. Y'all are going to be killers next year. I can't wait. You know, you got people in the hallway saying, yo, I'm going to be there at your next game. You know, you have the athletic director emailing you summer camps that he wants your girls to go to. You know, that's the type of investment that comes when you give 110%. If I would have just took this job and just bullshitted, you know, didn't do anything and just showed up, didn't take initiative with certain things, I don't think that the girls would have got what they got, and I don't think that I would have got the reward that I got intrinsically from this job, man. And I think that, you know, when you really put your 110% all into things, it's truly rewarding when you get the outcomes that you want. And that's all I got for you guys, man. I love y'all, man. This is the Talk That Talk show every single week. 251 episodes in the book, man. Before I hop off the air, how could I not give a big time shout out to Tyree, Tori, TK, and Pops, because the Talk That Talk show team, sponsored by Cloud9 Dispensary, is your 2024 NJ State Tournament champions. Yes, yes. We are state tournament champions. You know, big shout out to Timmy Hugel over at Ink Parlor. You know, he made the dopest jerseys for us. You know, Tim has done a great job trying to put my ideas and dreams into fruition. And, you know, the amount of jerseys that this guy has made for me, I mean, let me just get a handful just to give you guys perspective, you know. And this is just a little bit of these jerseys this guy's made for me, right? So, you know, he's done a great job with that. And I can't put into perspective for you guys just how good it feels when you look good, and like Deion Sanders said, you play good, right? So when we go out there in our Cloud9 jerseys, or we go out there in the OG jerseys, or we go out there in the summer times, you know, we feel like we got a strike because we look good, right? So, you know, Tim, thank you so much for making our teams look good. We had on our Cloud9 jerseys for the state tournament. Wound up taking first place there. And I think the cool part about that was at some point we all struggled throughout that set. However, in the 10th frame, we kind of all knew what it took. And, you know, we all went to a secret place. You know, we went to a place within ourselves where we had to close that frame. And I think each one of us, you know, got one or two. I think I struck out in the 10th. And, you know, I screamed something like, it's still there. And, you know, you just saw everybody do their job, man. It's just, again, I talked to my boy Isaiah, and sometimes it takes talking to other people to kind of put things into perspective or kind of open your eyes about certain things. And, you know, for me, you know, when I was talking to Isaiah, he said the amount of things that you've been able to accomplish since I've known you, you know, it's been amazing. And, you know, when you're going through life every day, you don't really think about it. But, you know, what we've been able to accomplish with Talk That Talk show, winning the New Jersey State Tournament, winning the first half at Majestic, coming in second place at Carolier on Wednesday nights, you know, there's been a lot of success. But, you know, I think that in looking at that success, I don't want anyone to take away from the hard work that was put in to get to those points. You know, we didn't just wake up and become good bowlers. You know, plenty of times I was ass, and I had to stay after and practice and work on it and figure out why I was so ass. You know, don't cheat the game. I feel like, you know, people that cheat the game stay in the same place. And, you know, I love bowling with, you know, my family, because not only do we enjoy bowling with each other and have that chemistry, but we all have not hit our ceilings. Even my pops has still found a way to unlock new levels within his game. Whether it's his new equipment, whether it's changing ball weights. You know, I'm constantly seeing my dad get better, and, you know, with TK exponentially getting better, Tori doing what she's doing, Tyree being that steady rock. We got a team that's going to be competing for, you know, as long as we want to. And, you know, that's what I think is exciting. Just like with the Knicks, even though the Knicks lost, we know that that team, that core, is elite and will get us to the next level next year. And the same way with my family. I know if I'm lined up with them and we're wearing those Ink Parlor jerseys, it don't matter who we're lined up against. I like our team better than them. And on that note, I love you all. Thank you so much. This is the Talk That Talk show every single week. You know the vibes. And one last thing before I hop off. I got off work a little early, and I took some time to retool the website. All right, a lot of people have been asking what's going on with the website. You now can go to talkthattalkshow.com, and you can watch an episode. You can listen to an episode. You can look at the work that's been put on Instagram. The website is completely restructured, retooled, redesigned. Take the time when you get it to invest in yourself, guys. That's what I did today. The website is up and running. Check it out. TalkThatTalkShow.com. I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your support. Y'all are what makes Talk That Talk Show what it is. I'll see y'all next episode.